Up next in the broadcast, after losing his parliamentary immunity, leftist lawmaker with alleged ties to North Korea, Seok-ki, has been arrested with the approval of a district court and will undergo an investigation into his suspected treason. With economic growth in the nation hitting an over 2-year high in the second quarter and purchasing power rising its fastest in 4 years, are these the signs of recovery we're looking for? And we may be witnessing the start of the new smartwatch era as Samsung unveils its first companion device to the smartphone that you wear on your wrist. Primetime News begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Thursday, September 5th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Yoo Ji-hye.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin with a political scandal rocking the nation. For the first time in Korean history, an incumbent lawmaker has been arrested for conspiring to overthrow the South Korean government.
The Representative Lee Seok-ki of the Unified Progressive Party will now undergo an investigation at the headquarters of the National Intelligence Service for the next 10 days. Arirang reports.
Judges on Thursday afternoon issued an arrest warrant for Representative Lee Seok-ki, giving the green light to a complete investigation by the National Intelligence Service. He has since been taken to custody at a detention center in Suwon, south of Seoul, making it the very first time in Korea's modern history that an incumbent lawmaker has been arrested on treason charges. Lee will now undergo an investigation at the spy agency's headquarters in Seoul, which could run until September 14th. At that time, he will be sent over to the prosecution, which will have to decide within 20 days whether to indict him. In issuing the arrest warrant, the head judge at Suwon District Court said there was sufficient reason to believe Lee could have done the things he's accused of, adding that Lee was a flight risk and raising the possibility that he may destroy evidence. Representative Lee re-emphasized his innocence at a warrant examination hearing earlier in the day at the Suwon District Court and accused the spy agency of fabricating the conspiracy scandal. He currently faces 3 main charges: conspiring to stage a revolt with a group of North Korea sympathizers, plotting to disrupt South Korean systems, including key infrastructure such as communication lines and railways, and creating an organization benefiting North Korea called the Revolutionary Organization, or RO, which reportedly consists of 130 members. If both the spy agency and prosecution take the full allotment of time to investigate Lee, the court will make its first ruling early next month. Yoo-ji-hye, Arirang News.
And staying with the growing scandal, the ruling and opposition parties are at odds over whether to expel lawmaker Lee from his parliamentary seat.
Members of the ruling Saenuri Party announced Thursday that they might seek expulsion motions against Lee, which requires at least 2/3 approval from the 300-member National Assembly. The opposition Democratic Party, on the other hand, is taking a more cautious stance. They say it is against protocol for parties to move ahead with procedures to boot him from the seat before the judicial branch makes a final ruling. After hours of meetings, the two Koreas agreed Thursday night to reconnect a military hotline that the North had cut in March amid heightened inter-Korean tensions.
The move comes as the North and South are working toward a resumption of operations at the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Our Kim Hyun-bin has more.
An official from Seoul's Unification Ministry announced Thursday evening that both sides had agreed to reconnect the severed hotline at 9 a.m. Friday. Officials from the two Koreas had been locked in talks at the Kaesong Industrial Complex for 9 hours. Earlier in the day, the two sides were looking to smooth out issues related to customs, communications, and personnel safety at the Inter-Korean Factory Park, once operations there resumed. At the top of the agenda during the talks was the reconnection of the severed military hotline near the West Sea, which the North cut in March amid inter-Korean tensions. The South has put emphasis on the hotline because people were only able to gain entry to and exit from the complex after getting approval from the joint security area at Panmunjom, and only during working hours. In those times that Panmunjom is closed, the military hotline near the West Sea keeps the line of communication open, in the event of an emergency. With North Korea's promise to reconnect the severed military hotline, there's fresh hope that the two Koreas will be able to set a date for reopening the Kaesong complex at the second joint committee meeting scheduled for next Tuesday. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
The U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs arrived in South Korea on Thursday to discuss a wide array of security issues concerning the Korean peninsula.
Daniel Russel started his trip by explaining that the U.S.'s decision to intervene in Syria was also intended to send a message to North Korea that the use of chemical weapons would not be tolerated. Russel was scheduled to meet with Defense Minister Kim Kwan-jin and Unification Minister Ryu Kil-jae on Thursday after a closed-door dinner with South Korea's chief envoy for the six-party talks, Cho Tae-yong. This is Russel's first time to the country since his appointment in July. He will depart for Japan on Friday.
Some alarming speculation about North Korea's possession of chemical weapons. The South Korean Defense Ministry said the North has been producing chemical weapons since the 1980s and is presumed to possess between 2,500 and 5,000 tons of various chemical agents.
It added that they can be delivered via a missile or other long-range artillery. The announcement comes after U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel announced at a Senate meeting on Wednesday that the rogue state has a large stockpile of chemical weapons. South Korean Defense Minister Kim Kwan-jin expressed concerns that Syria's use of chemical weapons might send the wrong message to Pyongyang, making them think that it may be okay to use them. Well, it was a packed day for President Park Geun-hye, who is now in Russia for the G20 summit in St. Petersburg.
She spent the hours before the meeting holding a bilateral summit with the Italian Prime Minister and discussions with U.S. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Our presidential office correspondent Oh Jin-ju, who is traveling with the president, sends us this report.
Ahead of the official opening of the G20 Leaders Summit in St. Petersburg, Russia, President Park held bilateral talks with Italian Prime Minister Enrico Letta at the Imperial Constantine Palace. The meeting with the Italian leader is seen as President Park's first act of diplomacy towards Europe and came just a couple of months before her scheduled trip to the region. During the one-on-one summit, the two leaders discussed ways to expand cooperation in economic affairs and trade based on the Korea-EU FTA and exchanged views on a variety of pending issues. In particular, she asked Italy to take interest in the globalization of the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex and her push for a creative economy. President Park also met with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and expressed her expectations for a thorough UN investigation on Syria's alleged use of chemical weapons. The Korean president will continue on with her bilateral meetings with three more leaders: Kazakh President Nursultan Nazarbayev, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday. President Park and Merkel have met 3 times before, and her summit with the German Chancellor this time around demonstrates her close friendship and strong cooperative ties. During her bilateral talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Park is expected to seek support for her trust-building process with North Korea, as she did previously with U.S. President Barack Obama and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News, St. Petersburg.
Before your day ends and another begins, get the latest news live from Seoul.
Residents whose features
restrictions is on the rise.
closing ceremony,
Expert analysis from Asia's heartbeat.
the legislature, circumstances,
With a viewpoint only Korea's global network can provide.
the United States, the latest report, less than a
Unrivaled access from a team always on standby.
Meeting came on maneuver, trying to cover up the South's true intentions.
Some welcome news on the economic front. Korea's gross national income climbed at its fastest pace in 4 years in the second quarter, while the nation's economy also grew more than 1% in the April to June period for the first time in more than 2 years. Our Arirang's Hwang Ji-ae tells us whether this could be a sign that Korea is on the path to recovery.
Korea's gross national income, which is a gauge of the population's purchasing power, rose 2.9% in the second quarter from a quarter earlier, the fastest pace in 4 years. The Bank of Korea says improved trade conditions that were boosted by falling oil prices and price gains of major export products like semiconductors played key roles. The gain in Korea's gross national income has been speeding up over the past 2 straight quarters. The nation's economy, meanwhile, grew 1.1% in the April to June period from the previous quarter, rising above 1% for the first time in 9 quarters. This is unchanged from the central bank's earlier estimate. While today's figures raise hopes of escaping from the nation's recent sluggish growth, experts are doubtful about a sustained recovery.
The rise in the nation's growth rate comes mostly from expanded fiscal spending in the second quarter of this year. So whether the growth pace will continue remains unknown.
It's no surprise then that the nation's private spending, one of the main growth engines, rose a mere 0.7% in the second quarter from the previous quarter. And with the Chinese economy slowing and the U.S. Federal Reserve planning to pull back its monetary stimulus program, no one is sure the Korean economy will regain its full strength in the second half of this year. Hwang Ji-ae, Arirang News.
Moving on to some tech news, Samsung unveiled its new Galaxy Gear smartwatch and the buzz has already begun. The device offers hands-free calls and photo-taking capabilities and will likely usher in a new trend in the global smartphone market. Kim Min-ji gives us a glimpse of the new gadget.
Samsung Electronics on Wednesday unwrapped a smartwatch that links with its Galaxy line smartphones and can make phone calls, take pictures, and send messages. The tech giant's long-awaited launch, coming ahead of the IFA Tech Convention in Berlin, underlines its attempt to set a new trend in the global mobile device industry. The Galaxy Gear, featuring a 1.6-inch OLED screen, a 1.9-megapixel camera, and built-in speaker, does not require users to reach into their pockets to check their mobile phones.
I believe it will become a new fashion icon around the world.
However, the smartwatch, which will be available starting September 25th in nearly 150 countries, currently only works with the Galaxy Note 10.1 and Galaxy Note 3, both of which were unveiled on the same day. The Galaxy Note 3 has a larger screen and it is lighter than the previous model and boasts an upgraded S Pen. The release of the devices comes about a week before Samsung's main rival Apple is due to unveil its latest product. Apple, which gave up its #1 ranking in the mobile market last year, is also set to be developing a smartwatch. With both tech behemoths and other minor companies developing their own smartwatches, the ensuing competition will likely spur a race for innovation in the global smartphone industry. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Unionized workers of Korea's largest automaker Hyundai Motor Company have narrowed their differences with management over wage increases, which may end their weeks-long protest. The two sides came to provisional agreement on Thursday evening, which includes raising the monthly wage of workers by around $88. Now, that is 64% less than they initially requested. Union workers also lost out in their push to raise the retirement age from 60 to 61. The agreement may put an end to 2 weeks of partial strikes by union workers. It is estimated that the labor stoppages have led to delays in production of more than 50,000 vehicles, which amounts to losses of about $913 million. Washington is inching closer to launching a military strike on the Syrian regime for its alleged use of chemical weapons on its people, as a key U.S. Senate committee gave a green light to the use of military force in the troubled state. Kanye has more.
Gathered at Capitol Hill on Wednesday, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee has voted 10-7, authorizing military action in Syria. The authorization now must gain approval in the full Senate and the House of Representatives before taking effect. The resolution gives President Barack Obama the authority to order a limited military action against the Syrian regime, as long as it does not exceed 90 days. The resolution also states that ground troops cannot be used and that all military force should be aimed at preventing Syria from carrying out future chemical weapons attacks. In Sweden, ahead of the G20 summit in Russia on Wednesday, President Obama challenged the international community to act.
My credibility is not on the line. The international community's credibility is on the line. And America and Congress's credibility is on the line because we give lip service to the notion that these international norms are important.
Meanwhile, in Germany, an intelligence official has revealed an intercepted phone call proves that Syrian President Bashar al-Assad personally ordered last month's gas attack. Russia, however, is still not convinced. Russian officials continue to urge the U.S. to come up with more evidence to show that Syria did indeed use chemical weapons against the opposition. In the meantime, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is demanding that the Syrian crisis be resolved within the framework of the UN Charter. He also said that the results of the UN investigation into the alleged chemical attack in Syria will be announced soon. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
A daunting figure was released early this week on the nation's marriage rate. A study by Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs showed that 1 in 5 people in their early 20s may never get to tie the knot should the current trend of marriage avoidance continue.
To tell us more about the low marriage rate among young Koreans and its effect on the society as a whole, we connect live to Dr. Cho Young-tae, professor of public health at Seoul National University. Thank you for speaking with us tonight.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Right. Dr. Cho, is marriage losing ground in Korea, and how serious is the problem?
Well, as the research showed that at age 20, the young people right now, their probability of getting remaining being single when they become age 45 is about 1 out of 4 people. The marriage is related with fertility. We all know that the importance of fertility. We are losing babies in this country, and that will make a threat to our future sustainability in Korea. So that late marriage that is related with less childbearing or even just giving up of childbearing. So that's one thing. And another thing is that this is related with the family formation. The Korean society, it's not just Korea, all society in the world, the basic unit is family. But not marrying, that means that we are losing our family in our society.
Now, Dr. Cho, some point to the fact that government support policies are mostly tailored to married couples, while the singles or newlyweds are often excluded from these benefits. So what should the government do to encourage marriage in the country?
Okay, regarding this low fertility and population aging issue, government has so far focused only on the child care issues. Of course, child care is very important because in this country, child care related social environments was poorly structured. But now they need to change, or they need to focus not only on the child care, but also on marriage, because in this society, without marriage, there's no childbearing.
So, Dr. Cho, even if the government does have measures to support marriage, if you just ask normal Koreans out on the street, some of the problems that they have in terms of not getting married are very culturally based. For example, it's expected that the man in the marriage brings a house, a fully paid house or fully paid deposit rental house to the marriage. How realistic is that in this day and age to expect a 30-year-old who probably has worked for maybe 3 to 5 years to come up with that kind of money?
We need to change, or need to make some structure that marriage has to be, particularly early marriage, has to be considered as an advantage in your life. And one good example is, as you just mentioned, that housing. Because right now, housing market is so high and expensive. And then, of course, the government, they made some arrangement for the newly married couples, but that's not enough. My suggestion, actually, I already made to the government was that we need to support this early married couple with providing the long-term renting apartments. And then, well, this may not sound realistic, but let's say they have a first baby within the 3 years, then extended their staying there for 5 more years. Within 5 more years, they have second baby, then we just change their houses to a larger one and make them stay there for 20 years.
And statistically, from around 1990 to 2005, the nation produced more boys than girls. So even if everybody wanted to get married traditionally, it wouldn't be possible, would it?
Well, we don't know yet because those those age groups that you just mentioned, they are about age 20s to around 18 to 22. When they become age 30, about getting married, then we don't know what's going to happen. So, well, statistically, probably the boys would have a hard time to find their spouse.
All right. Well, Dr. Cho, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us tonight.
Okay, thank you very much.
South Korea and Haiti are set to face each other in a friendly football match at Incheon Football Stadium on Friday night.
And Stephen Che joins us from the Sports Center to give us a preview. Stephen.
Hey guys, the South Korean national men's football team is seeking its first win under manager Hong Myung-bo, and this time they've come armed. Several high-profile European League players have joined the squad, adding an edge to the offense that struggled to finish in the past. Manager Hong's projected 4-2-3-1 formation is to feature Ji Dong-won at forward, Kim Bo-kyung behind him, and Captain Lee Chung-yong and Son Heung-min at the right and left wings. Meanwhile, Haiti is ranked 74th in the world and includes 16 footballers who play outside their country. They have not qualified for the World Cup in Brazil next year. Heading to Major League Baseball, the Chicago Cubs have called up South Korean sidearm closer Im Chang-yong from AAA Iowa to bolster their bullpen. Im is hardly the inexperienced rookie at 37 years old, and it's a remarkable comeback from his second Tommy John surgery last summer. He spent the first half of the year climbing up the minors, where he posted a combined ERA of 1.61 and a 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched ratio in 21 games. And coming home, it's time to talk about Thursday's top KBO matchup. The Kia Tigers squared off against the Tusan Bears in Seoul. The Bears haven't lost to the Tigers since early May. It's the first inning. First batter, the Tigers' Lee Yong-gyu. He homers to right. They score one later. Kia up 2-0. Now we go on to the bottom of the first. The Bears' Lee Jong-uk comes home on an errant throw. It's 2-1 Kia. Now Tusan racks on 2 before Oh Jae-il's 2-run blast into right field, and also Lee Won-suk's solo shot over the wall in the 5th. Bears in control, and they go on to win this one with a final score of 6-2. And looking at the scores from around the league, Hanwha defeats LG 2-1, SK over Lotte 6-3, and Nexon is leading NC 2-1 in the bottom of the 11th. That does it for me here in the Sports Center. This has been Stephen Che. Check back at midnight for the latest in the world of sports.
Let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Hello there.
Hello, Sean and Chi-hye.
Now, the temperatures are dropping by the day, Bo-kyung. Will this breezy weather be a trend?
Yes, we have more early fall weather in the forecast. For details, let's take a look at the satellite map. We are currently at the edge of a high pressure system from China, which is why we're seeing cloudy skies throughout the nation. But due to winds blowing from the east, there may be showers on Jeju Island starting tomorrow late at night. Besides the showers on Jeju, we will have cloudy skies again tomorrow. Average daytime highs should reach 26. The weather will be good for you to take a walk during the day. However, as the temperature gap should be 10 degrees, please be sure to take care of your health. Taking a closer look at tomorrow's numbers, Seoul should get to 26 degrees, and it looks like the southern regions will have a cloudy day hitting the mid-20s. Moving on to other regions, Daejeon should remain cooler at 22 degrees. The daytime high on rainy Jeju will hit 26. Meanwhile, Mount Kumgang tops out at 15 degrees. Well, that's all for now, but join me for another update after midnight.
And that's our broadcast on this Thursday night. I'm Yoo Ji-hae in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.